May 27, 1942. Prague, Protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia. The morning air hangs cool over the cobblestone streets of Prague. A thin mist curls around the rooftops as the city wakes slowly under the weight of occupation. German banners hang from government buildings. Wehrmacht trucks rumble through narrow streets. Czech civilians move quietly along the sidewalks, their heads lowered, careful not to draw attention. And somewhere inside the city, two men wait. Hidden among the hedges near a sharp bend in the road in the suburb of Libin, Sergeant Jozef Gabčík grips the cold metal of his Sten submachine gun. His breath is slow but heavy. Beside him, Jan Kubiš crouches behind a stone wall, a modified anti-tank grenade resting in his hands. They have been waiting for hours. Their target is one of the most powerful and feared men in Nazi Germany, SS-Obergruppenführer Reinhard Heydrich. To many inside the Third Reich, Heydrich is known as the Blonde Beast. To those living under Nazi rule, he is something far worse. He is the architect of terror in occupied Europe, the man who organized the Wannsee Conference, where the machinery of the final solution was coordinated. As acting Reich protector of Bohemia and Moravia, he rules Prague with ruthless efficiency. Executions, mass arrests, entire resistance networks wiped out. Yet strangely, Heydrich travels through the city almost carelessly. No armored convoy, no heavy escort, just a black Mercedes-Benz 320 convertible, the roof often folded down. Confidence, arrogance, or both. Every morning he drives the same route from his estate at Panensk-Brezhny Castle into Prague Castle. The road curves sharply at this exact corner in Libin, forcing any vehicle to slow almost to a crawl. That bend in the road is why the two men are here. This operation has a name whispered only among a handful of Allied planners. Operation Anthropoid. Months earlier, far from Prague, the plan was born in a quiet office in London, where the Czechoslovak government in exile pleaded for action. Nazi propaganda had begun portraying occupied Czech lands as calm and loyal to Germany. The Allies needed proof that resistance still lived. But they also needed a target. Some in London had asked an obvious question. Why not try to kill Adolf Hitler himself? The answer was complicated. Hitler rarely exposed himself. His movements were secret, heavily guarded, and unpredictable. Any assassination attempt deep inside Germany would almost certainly fail, and the consequences could devastate resistance networks across Europe. Heydrich, however, was different. He was powerful enough that killing him would shake the Nazi leadership. Yet he was visible enough that reaching him might actually be possible. So the British Special Operations Executive (SOE) and the Czechoslovak Intelligence Service began training volunteers. That is how Gabčík and Kubiš ended up here. Both men had escaped Nazi-occupied Europe earlier in the war. Both had trained in Britain in sabotage, explosives, parachuting, and assassination. In December 1941, they were dropped by parachute into the frozen countryside of occupied Czechoslovakia. The landing went wrong immediately. Navigation errors scattered the resistance teams across miles of farmland. Snow swallowed their equipment containers. German patrols searched constantly. But slowly, carefully, the men made contact with the underground resistance in Prague. For months, they studied Heydrich's movements. They watched the roads he traveled. They memorized the exact timing of his daily drive. And most importantly, they noticed something extraordinary. Heydrich refused to travel with protection. He believed the Czech population was too terrified to attack him. That arrogance gave the resistance their opportunity. Back in the present moment, the quiet Prague street remains almost empty. A tram rattles past in the distance. A woman pushing a bicycle pauses at the corner, unaware of the men hidden just meters away. Gabčík checks his watch again. Any moment now. He can hear his own heartbeat inside his ears. Beside him, Kubiš wipes sweat from his hands and tightens his grip on the grenade. The plan is simple. When the Mercedes slows at the curve, Gabčík will step into the road and fire the Sten at point-blank range. If the gun jams or if Heydrich somehow survives, Kubiš will throw the grenade. There will be no second chance. Footsteps echo faintly from a nearby alley. The distant hum of an engine grows louder. Both men freeze. The black Mercedes appears at the far end of the street. His chrome grille flashes in the morning light. Behind the wheel sits SS-Oberscharfer Johannes Klein, Heydrich's trusted driver. And in the back seat, relaxed and exposed, sits Reinhard Heydrich himself, wearing his SS uniform, the iron skull insignia gleaming on his cap. No bodyguards, no escort vehicles. Just one of the most powerful men in Nazi Germany riding through a hostile city as if he were untouchable. The car approaches the bend. Closer, closer. Gabčík slowly rises from behind the hedge. The Mercedes slows exactly as expected. For a brief moment, Heydrich's eyes meet the man standing in the road. And then Gabčík pulls the trigger. The moment stretches into something almost unreal. Jozef Gabčík stands in the middle of the road, the Sten submachine gun raised to his shoulder. The black Mercedes-Benz 320 convertible is only a few meters away now, slowing into the tight curve exactly as planned. Inside the car, Reinhard Heydrich stares directly at him. For a fraction of a second, neither man moves. Then Gabčík squeezes the trigger. Nothing happens. The Sten jams. A hollow metallic click breaks the silence where a burst of gunfire should have been. Gabčík's stomach drops instantly. The weapon in his hands, cheap, hastily produced in wartime Britain, has betrayed him at the exact worst moment imaginable. For an instant, the entire operation hangs by a thread. Heydrich reacts faster than anyone expected. Instead of ducking for cover or ordering his driver to speed away, he does something astonishing. He stands up in the open car. "Stop the car!" Heydrich shouts to his driver, Johannes Klein. The Mercedes jerks to a halt. Heydrich reaches for his Luger pistol, preparing to confront the attacker directly. It is a decision born of arrogance, and it will prove fatal. Gabčík desperately tries to clear the jammed weapon, yanking at the bolt. But the seconds are slipping away too quickly. This was supposed to be the moment. The entire mission depended on that burst of gunfire. Now the plan is collapsing. From behind the wall nearby, Jan Kubiš sees everything unfold. He knows instantly that the responsibility has shifted to him. There is no time to hesitate. Kubiš steps into the street and hurls the modified anti-tank grenade toward the Mercedes. The grenade spins through the air. It strikes the rear of the car and detonates with a violent blast. The explosion tears through the vehicle's side, shattering glass and ripping metal apart. A wave of smoke and dust bursts across the street. The force of the blast throws Heydrich sideways in the seat. Fragments of metal, upholstery, and horsehair stuffing from the car's interior explode outward like shrapnel. One large piece of debris punches deep into Heydrich's side. The street erupts into chaos. Civilians scream and scatter. A nearby tram screeches to a halt. For a moment, nobody can see anything through the swirling cloud of smoke. Then figures begin emerging from it. Gabčík runs. Kubiš runs the opposite direction. Driver Johannes Klein stumbles out of the wrecked car, his pistol already drawn. He spots Gabčík sprinting down the street and immediately gives chase. Gabčík ducks around a corner, heart hammering in his chest. The Sten gun is useless now. All he has left is his training, and the desperate hope that he can escape the German patrols that will soon flood the city. Behind him, Klein continues pursuing, shouting for help. The two men race through narrow streets until Gabčík suddenly stops, turns, and fires a single shot from his pistol. The bullet strikes Klein in the leg. The German driver collapses to the pavement, unable to continue the chase. But the most shocking sight is still back at the attack site. Reinhard Heydrich is still alive. Staggering from the wrecked Mercedes, he grips the door for support. Blood stains his uniform where the blast drove metal fragments into his body. Despite the severe injuries, Heydrich refuses to collapse immediately. Witnesses later recall the surreal image of one of the most feared men in Nazi Germany standing in the street, pale but upright, pistol still in hand. For a brief moment, it almost seems as if he might survive the attack. A passing truck driver and a Czech policeman rush to help. Heydrich finally collapses onto the sidewalk. Someone flags down a delivery van. The wounded SS leader is loaded into the vehicle and rushed toward Bílovka Hospital in Prague. Meanwhile, the assassins disappear into the city. But they know something terrifying. The explosion may not have been enough to kill him. And if Heydrich survives, the consequences will be catastrophic. Across Prague, German forces are already reacting. Sirens begin to howl. Roadblocks appear within minutes. The Gestapo launches the largest manhunt the occupied territory has ever seen. Thousands of soldiers and police flood the streets. The Nazis understand immediately what has happened. This was not random violence. This was a planned assassination against one of the most powerful leaders of the Third Reich. And Adolf Hitler will demand blood in response. Yet, in a hospital room in Prague, doctors now crowd around the wounded Reinhard Heydrich. At first, they believe he might recover. The shrapnel wounds appear serious but not immediately fatal. Surgeons remove metal fragments from his body. For several days, his condition seems stable. But something inside the wound has already begun to spread. An invisible killer carried by the explosion itself. An infection that even Nazi Germany's best doctors cannot stop. Within days, the man known as the Butcher of Prague will be dying. And when he does, Hitler's rage will unleash one of the most brutal acts of revenge in the entire war. 2 villages will be wiped from the map. Thousands will die. And the world will learn that the Allies had deliberately chosen to kill Reinhard Heydrich instead of Adolf Hitler. Because removing this one man could change the course of the war in ways few people yet understood. June 4, 1942. Bulovka Hospital, Prague. The room smells sharply of disinfectant and iron. A faint hum from medical equipment fills the silence as doctors lean over the bed of one of the most feared men in Nazi Germany. Reinhard Heydrich lies motionless beneath white sheets, his once perfect SS uniform replaced by hospital bandages and surgical dressings. His face is pale now, almost waxy, the strong jaw slack against the pillow. For days, it had seemed as if he might survive. When surgeons first operated, they removed fragments of metal and debris from his body. Pieces of the Mercedes upholstery, horsehair stuffing and fabric, had been driven deep into the wound when the grenade exploded. At first, the surgery appeared successful. Heydrich even spoke with visitors. But the infection had already begun. Sepsis. By the morning of June 4th, his breathing grows shallow and uneven. Doctors whisper in German at the foot of the bed. One of them checks his pulse again. It is weak. Outside the hospital room, heavily armed SS guards line the hallway. No one enters without authorization. Nazi officials move in tense silence through the corridors. The Third Reich is holding its breath. And far away in Berlin, Adolf Hitler waits for news. Shortly after 4:30 in the morning, Heydrich's chest rises once more. Then it falls, and does not rise again. Reinhard Heydrich, architect of the final solution, chief planner of Nazi intelligence, and one of the most powerful figures in Hitler's inner circle, is dead. The news travels to Berlin within minutes. When Hitler hears the report, witnesses later say his reaction is pure fury. Not just grief, not just anger, but humiliation. One of his most trusted lieutenants has been assassinated by resistance fighters in an occupied territory the Nazis believed was completely under control. Hitler demands immediate retaliation. Not a simple investigation. Not arrests. Revenge. Across occupied Czechoslovakia, the Gestapo launches a massive crackdown. Entire neighborhoods in Prague are sealed off. Thousands of civilians are interrogated. The Nazis offer a huge reward for information. Anyone suspected of aiding the assassins is tortured. Within days, more than 13,000 people are arrested. Hundreds are executed. But Hitler wants something even more visible. Something that will terrify every occupied country in Europe. So the Nazis choose a small Czech village northwest of Prague. Lidice. On the night of June 9, 1942, German trucks roll into the quiet farming community. Soldiers surround the village before dawn. Loudspeakers order every resident to come outside. Men are separated from women. Children are pulled away from their parents. Then the executions begin. The men of Lidice, 173 of them, are lined up in groups against a barn wall. Machine guns open fire. One group after another falls. By the end of the day, the entire male population of the village is dead. The women are sent to concentration camps. Most of the children are taken away. Some will be sent to German families for racial re-education. Others will vanish into extermination camps. Finally, the Nazis destroy the village itself. Houses are burned. Buildings are demolished. Even the cemetery is dug up. The Nazis intend to erase Lidice from the map completely, as if it had never existed. Yet, instead of destroying resistance, the massacre shocks the world. News of Lidice spreads across Allied countries almost immediately. Newspapers in London, New York, and Moscow publish the story on their front pages. Cities around the world rename streets and neighborhoods after the village. Lidice shall live becomes a rallying cry. And suddenly the assassination of Reinhard Heydrich has become one of the most powerful propaganda victories of the war. Because the world now sees clearly what Nazi rule truly looks like. But the manhunt inside Prague is still ongoing. The assassins, Gabčík, Kubiš, and several other resistance fighters, are hiding inside the city. For days they move between safe houses. But the Gestapo dragnet grows tighter. Eventually, betrayal will reveal their location. And when German forces finally surround them, the last battle of Operation Anthropoid will take place inside a small church. A battle where 7 resistance fighters will face hundreds of Nazi soldiers. None of them expect to survive. June 18, 1942. Church of Saints Cyril and Methodius, Prague. Dawn has not yet fully broken over the city, but the quiet street outside the church is already filling with men. Black SS uniforms. Green Gestapo coats. German soldiers carrying MP-40 submachine guns and rifles spread across the narrow square, sealing off every possible escape. Inside the church, hidden beneath the stone floor in a dark crypt, 7 resistance fighters wait in silence. Among them are the men who attacked Reinhard Heydrich, Jozef Gabčík, Jan Kubiš. Alongside them are their fellow parachutists and resistance members. Adolf Hitler, Joseph Valsik, Jaroslav Svark, Jan Ruby, and Joseph Bublik. For nearly 3 weeks, they have been hiding here. They know the Nazis are searching for them. They know the consequences of Heydrich's death are spreading across the country. But until yesterday, the Germans did not know where to look. Then someone betrayed them. A Czech resistance member named Karel Kurda, terrified by the Gestapo's rewards and threats, walked into a German office and revealed everything he knew. Within hours, the Nazis traced the assassins to this church. Now more than 700 German soldiers and police surround the building. Inside the crypt, the resistance fighters check their weapons. A few pistols, rifles, several grenades, and very little ammunition. They all understand the situation perfectly. No one expects to leave this place alive. Upstairs, inside the church sanctuary, 3 of the fighters take positions behind pews and pillars. They hear the boots first. Hundreds of them. German troops rush the front doors. The moment the doors burst open, the resistance fighters open fire. Gunshots explode through the church. Bullets tear through wooden pews and smash into stone columns. German soldiers dive for cover as the defenders fire from elevated positions near the balcony. For nearly 2 hours, the battle rages inside the church. The small resistance group manages to hold off wave after wave of attackers. German bodies begin piling near the entrance, but numbers eventually begin to tell. The defenders run low on ammunition. One by one, the men fighting upstairs are hit. Adolf Hitler, Joseph Bublik, and Jan Kubiš are mortally wounded during the firefight. Kubiš, one of the 2 men who attacked Heydrich, bleeds heavily from grenade fragments and bullet wounds. German soldiers finally overpower the upper level of the church. But the fight is not over, for fighters are still alive, and they are hidden beneath the church in the crypt. Gabčík and the others retreat behind the thick stone walls underground. The Nazis quickly discover the entrance to the crypt but hesitate to storm it. The defenders fire through the narrow openings with deadly accuracy. Several German soldiers attempting to enter are shot immediately. So the SS tries another tactic. They bring in fire hoses. Water begins pouring into the crypt through the narrow openings, flooding the underground chamber. The resistance fighters stand ankle-deep in water as it rises steadily. Still they refuse to surrender. German officers shout down into the darkness. "Come out and you will be spared." No answer comes back. Instead, another gunshot echoes from below. The SS grows furious. They throw grenades into the crypt. Explosions shake the underground chamber. Smoke fills the air. The water continues rising. At last, the defenders understand the final truth. There is no escape, no rescue, and no surrender. One by one, the remaining fighters make their final decision. They turn their pistols on themselves. When German soldiers finally break into the crypt, they find the bodies of the last defenders lying in the flooded chamber. Among them is Jozef Gabčík, the man whose gun had jammed on that Prague street weeks earlier. The assassins of Reinhard Heydrich are dead, but their mission has already succeeded. They killed one of the most powerful men in Nazi Germany. And in doing so, they proved something the Nazis feared more than anything else: that resistance inside occupied Europe was still alive.